Hello and welcome to the Beingform's Flow Driven CEO podcast. And we're going to have a flowy conversation. I am welcoming from Delhi in India, Abhinav Bangia. Welcome to the show, Abhinav.
Hey, how are you doing today, Belinda? So glad that we're here today and doing this flow chat with you. So yeah.
Thank you. And call me B, which is so serious. But that is my name, but I like to be called B because you need more Bs in this world. But
Hmm.
let's talk about you. So Abhinav, you're the founder and CEO of Olho, which is, and I probably haven't pronounced that right, which you founded and established back in 2019. So
Hmm.
just before COVID, right, I don't know if it was right before, but the year before COVID. Fascinating. And it's a cybersecurity and AI company focused on digital fraud detection and defense for enterprises and governments. Comolho has reported patented tech for non-rule based ad fraud detection and raised a seed round led by Inflection Point Ventures. And you have quite a story to tell us in terms of what you were
Hmm.
just talking about before. You also, when you booked in for the pod, and I asked what's one unique insight, lived experience when it comes to life leadership and or business, you said bootstrapping startups plus anything you found on my LinkedIn profile would be interesting. And I
Hmm.
purposely didn't come up with topics or subjects for our chat because it is about flow. It is about listening to you and then me intuitively asking questions. So tell us your story. Tell us how you came to found the company and obviously starting in 2019. I'm also going to ask you about your artwork at some point, Abhinav, behind me, because I'm just loving all the different colors. So I'll hand it over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. Yeah, so I mean, we started this company back in 2019. It's been almost now 6 years. Can't believe it's been 6 years. And yeah, it was one of the ventures just before COVID. So we started this, to be exact, somewhere in July, August 2019. We were just gaining traction. I think it was just 6 to 8 months. We were just gaining traction, and then the COVID hit us. Uh, Eventually, our objective was very simple at that point of time, that we will not hire. We will try to build the capacity. We'll go all remote. And luckily, at that point of time, Facebook was also running this, Facebook for small big businesses program, and we won a grant there. We also raised our first angel round during COVID, right? So we did all the amazing stuff what an entrepreneur could do sitting out at his home. He cannot step out. He cannot call a client saying, "Okay, can you buy my product?" Because everybody, the entire world has,
Shut
come
down,
to a stop.
essentially.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a halt. You can't call somebody and ask them, "Okay, can you purchase this product?" Because it's very empathetic. People are losing lives. Some people are losing their closed ones. So you have to be very empathetic as a
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right? So we started this, and we started building all the capacity during the COVID time. So we channelized all our energies. Instead of doing sales, what can we do sitting in house, building products, building patents, getting the funds? Obviously, if somebody is interested in angel investing, has a huge HNI account behind, and somebody is very willfully investing in startups, and that was the right time to raise money. Because when people are sitting at home, these high level CX level people, who have large amount of cash with them, generally they would be secured from COVID because they would have all the facilities. But they would be intellectually very heavy at that point of time, because they would love
Yes.
to talk. They would love to talk to more people, enjoy this VC experience and all that stuff. So it's been an amazing journey there. 2019, then 2020, 2021 was all COVID. We were not doing sales, and eventually that also looks into our balance sheet as well, that we were not focused on sales. We're building products, we're building patents, we're finding the right people. And if you understand
Well,
this business actually start performing late 2020
so
two,
Abhinav,
right?
yes. Can I ask a question? Because we
Yes.
are in flow and I don't want to interrupt the flow, but fascinating because you didn't focus on sales and you talked around it hitting, the balance sheet, profit, revenue, et cetera, et cetera. Was it that was the business making any money at that point when you were focusing on the products, etc.? Or was it literally that you decided, you know what, we're just going to it's not the right time. Let's not focus on, profit and revenue as the goal or the priority right now.
Hmm. So we were not making money. I mean,
You
the
did not
first
make
4 years,
money in the first
no,
three. So
no.
how did you then, because I'm fascinated by this because you're doing all the research, you're doing all the product market fit. How were you able to afford to keep running the business? Did you have another job as well? Like, were you doing two jobs, or you were just basically going, this is how it is, we're committed, we're dedicated, we will convert, we will turn this over?
Yeah, I mean, we cut down all the costs, so there was no cost to the rental cost. There was no cost at all. I mean, it was just people and their salaries. I mean, we had enough cash in our accounts so that we could last maybe 3 years. Yeah, we didn't have a large team back then. We just had a few people who were just focused on what we were building, and we also raised an angel round, so that was some capital also
That's right.
coming
Yeah.
in. Right, so that was also so Lloyd, who was the first investor in the company. Today we kind of are very very thankful to him every day of our lives, because at that point of time when the world is down, the world is coming to a halt, people like Lloyd really act as angels. I mean, that's why they call it angel investors, because
Yeah,
they're literally the angels.
right.
Yeah,
I didn't really, I mean, is that naive? I didn't really know what they were called, angel investors, but is that the whole philosophy
yeah,
of,
because
oh my
they're
gosh,
angels
it's
for an
quite
entrepreneur.
literal, isn't it? But like, yeah, they come with their little wings and yeah,
Yeah, and they support you in whatever business stage you are in. Angels generally come up with small check sizes. They're not those heavy check sizes. They come up early in the business, very aligned to the business with small checks, but a lot of conviction and maturity in terms of how they mentor you as an entrepreneur,
Mm.
because they have seen large amount of businesses, 20, 30 years of work ex. They've seen how corporates work, how startups work, and what really needs to be done. How do we push the Indian entrepreneurs to excel? And that's where these angels come from. Today we have, I don't know, we have, India has largest amount of angels in the world. Yeah.
Really
Yep.
fascinating. So 3 years in, you've patented, you've got your products. What happens then? Like you said, it was
Okay.
around, yeah,
Then we build a team, and we found the right people, right? So we eventually, the kind of business that we operate, it's highly secretive. It's a cybersecurity business, and some of the things that we actually do in day-to-day life, people generally don't see it, right? The kind of digital fraud that is impacting us, or the kind of data breaches that are impacting us, it's very critical. I mean, somebody's personal information is at a risk of getting leaked, right? And that
yeah,
personal information could be the medical records, could be his personal information about his anything of that sort. So protecting that information becomes very critical for the organizations, right? Nobody would want, I don't want to name any apps, but nobody would want their personal info from that particular app to going on website
no,
tagged to their name,
absolutely
right?
not. Yeah.
So securing that, I mean, building AI, building those large systems, building large infrastructure for payments and all of that is good, amazing. But then securing them, it's way too critical, right? I mean, we can have the best AI of the world working with us, but if that AI system is not secure, then it's kind of a very, very different gameplay altogether. So security is a main fold, and we build products, we build patents, and then we eventually raised an seed round from Inflection Point Ventures, and that was a turning point, right? I mean, we raised about 250,000 k, as in 250K, in terms of the USD valuation. And yeah, that pretty much set the tone, right? So we had the right people with us who had the right maturity, right empathy. They have been coming from a long time, and eventually we found our CTO as well, right? And that was required because I myself would want to push myself doing sales, doing consulting, and getting more business, while
Yeah.
eventually giving up my arms. As an entrepreneur, you have to have those multiple arms, right? You're
Yeah,
doing
like it's
your
like this picture here. She's got like about 10, 15 different fingers because you
correct.
you do have to have multiple, like, everything.
Eventually you have to give up these hands to
Agreed.
people who would actually build this with you. So finding the team, building the right team became a motive for 2023 and 2024, and obviously building out the product to an enterprise level where enterprise is ready to pay the good amount for a product. And this is where the beautification happened, this is where the growth happened. That was year 4 and 5. And by the way, I'll give you a very good insight. Doing business in India is, people say it, okay, it's getting easier, but Indian enterprises are tested on resilience, right? So
Yeah.
eventually, You have to stick to the business for 4 6 5 6 years to actually show that yes, this will going to become a large scale company.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
obviously, you will have these large amount of funds putting in $1 million $1 billion in that company. There's a lottery system. You get $1 billion valuation in 2 months, 2 years, and you're like amazing company. But the balance sheets, they rot down, right? If you look at those balance sheets of these companies, they're pretty much in negative from large, I mean, for long term, right? But
Yeah.
otherwise, bootstrapping is different. Bootstrapping startups give you the ability to control your business by your vision, right? Eventually, I mean, if you are bootstrapping a business, you can hold on to your vision for the longest amount of time, right? Versus if you are getting high investments, right? A heavily invested business, right? Where there's a lot of stakeholders, there are a lot of investors, then these stakeholders try to divert your business model according to their business needs, right? Where they feel the money is. And eventually you would have to agree because those guys will be holding a major part of the company.
Yeah, well, they've got
But
a fair bit of equity, right?
correct. But versus Bootstrap, that doesn't happen there, right? So the founder and the team, the entire co-founder team, can put up their vision, what they actually want to build, right? And that's why I feel bootstrapping startups gives an entrepreneur a long-lasting edge.
So how
Uh,
long were you bootstrapping before you got the angel investors like a lot like on like and do you consider angel investors is that considered still bootstrapping because it's a lower
yeah,
proportion
it's
of
almost bootstrapping. I mean, when you get an angel investor, he's almost like a co-founder,
so that
right?
so it's still considered bootstrapping,
Correct, correct,
right?
correct.
But it's when you go to a VC and you're going through your seed round or whatever, is that it's obviously then when you're like, okay, we're moving for transitioning from bootstrapping to
Correct.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where, and that generally happens when you realize a product market fit. There is a notion in the startup world. There's something called product market fit. It is something that when
Yes.
your product automatically sells,
Yes.
that is right. So that I think that product market fit we realized early 2025, late 2024. We realized okay, this product is going to shoot up. Let's start building it more aggressively. Everything. Let's build a team, and it's very exciting today with three co-founders basically. There's and now we have a very splendid team doing all of this. So and we are adding more people on monthly basis. So eventually, if we connect, say same time next year, you would see us double up, right? And because it's an AI first company, it's an AI led company. I don't think so. We will go beyond 50 employees ever. So we would be a company. Maybe you can imagine we would be $1 billion startup with just 50 employees.
Do you
It-
is that your goal? Like what is your
yeah,
goal?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yes,
to in
yeah,
terms
yeah.
of and then have you set targets in terms of like with regards to the seeding, etc. Like you've had to put forward your, your pitch, all of that.
We'll
Like
be
that's
getting more fun soon. Yeah. It's
a
in
big
plan. So
goal. Yeah.
yeah, in a couple of quarters, we'll be having more funds. So once we have those funds, we'll deploy more resources, deploy more tech, more AI, automate almost everything. Maybe 5 years down the line, if you were talking to a product comme Olo, it'll be just voice. It'll be just voice, and you'll be the customer, and that's it.
So
There'll
tell
be
us
no touch. Yes.
tell us a bit about your product. Tell us like I mean obviously there's a lot of security around it, but
Give me a second.
yeah.
Give me a second.
Yeah. It's just got off. This is a first for the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast where my guest has just gone to take a break. We'll call this a little bit of active recovery. I might just sit and be present and stare at the beautiful pictures or talk to myself. I just had a little chat to myself. I was just like,
Yeah,
maybe just a little bit of active
I just
recovery
had a glass
because
of water.
pardon? Oh, that's okay because this is the first time I've had a podcast where my guest has just excused himself for a second, and I'm
That's
keeping
amazing.
it rolling. So I do love this. I love the nature and the flow of this conversation.
Amazing. Wherever we were discussing the product. So let me tell you a bit about our hero product. So today we have about 15,000 plus security researchers on our platform. These are ethical hackers, by the way. They could really hack into almost anything, right? And on the other side, we have these organizations who need this technical expertise of security. And eventually, I mean, look, if any businesses, if I give you an example, say a manufacturing business in Australia, right? If you look at the security teams, there would be just a couple of people, right, doing the technical security, right? Now, these companies know there are a lot of vulnerabilities in their system, right, which eventually can have a huge damaging impact on the reputation if gets exploited by somebody malicious, right? Now what these companies do is they come on our platform and they list their program, right? Say, for example, if I have to say company ABC program, right? And they list down all their websites, their mobile applications, their servers, and everything in details, right? Now, what these researchers do is they go and test these against security vulnerabilities. Now, security vulnerabilities can be from data leaks, can be from IDORs, from PI information. Say, if I want to figure out more information about you, what apps you use, what medical devices you use, which car you use, where do you often go for your fueling, where do you stay, all that information which is linked to your personal identity, right? All of
Yes.
that, right? How do you protect this information? You get these top security researchers from all across the globe. So you get an account on Comolo, that's it. And once you have an account on our platform, you will be able to access this top security talent from globe, and they would eventually find out every critical vulnerability in your system. And what do you have to pay? It's nothing almost, right? So you would have to, I mean, eventually you would have to pay some amount of dollars to that person who helped you figure out that vulnerability. And that's where the entire circle is. People, security researchers want to join Comolo so that they can make more money, right? Today, on an average, a researcher who's also employed in some company makes about ten to $15,000 on our platform, just
Wow.
sitting say 15, 20, half an hour, 30 minutes in the day,
To
right?
cut
Doing
out the
some testing.
fraud? Is that to cut the fraud out of like,
Yes,
yeah, amazing. How did you come up with this model? Like, how did you come up with this idea? Like, did you?
amazing. That's an interesting question. It goes way back in 2019. So I remember I used my uh, ATM card in some of the cash dispensing machines somewhere near my house, right? And I sensed something was wrong because I couldn't click one of the buttons on the keypad where you put your PIN code, right? Or where you put your PIN, right? Card PIN. And I figured out something was fishy, but then eventually I went back home and I slept. Middle of the night, I get 3 4 messages that this following amount has been deducted from your account, and these were continuous messages, right? You can assume $1,000 getting deducted every 2 minutes from my account, right? So this raised an alarm for me, as
Was
in
that the bank that was contacting you? Who was contacting you?
no. So somebody skimmed my card onto some dummy machine, and then they eventually used this skimmed card somewhere in far away from my house, somewhere
Oh my
100 kilometers away
gosh,
from
how
my house, and
crazy.
skimmed. Yeah. So eventually, the other day when I woke up the next day, it was a reality for me that this is kind of very concerning. As in, I'm a citizen and I have my bank account, and somebody could easily skim my card and do a fraud. So this eventually raised. So I was a techie all my life. I've been an engineer, so I tried to do a market study. How deep is this problem? And it's very deep. It's actually country agnostic. Every country you go to, this problem would exist in some
Yes.
form or the other, right? My country would have these 5 kind of frauds happening every year. But while if I study your country might be having 5 different kinds of
Yeah.
fraud doing. So this problem is now increasing as we go more and more digital, right? This problem will increase, and thus the safety for my consumer and my citizen increases. And that's why Comolo was built, right? And that's why I studied the market. The next morning was simple: going to the bank, telling them, okay, this is what happened. The bank official telling me, oh, this is very common, happens every day to some consumer or the other. Then I realized, okay, this is a big market, a lot of people are already suffering from this. Then the next thing was I went to the police station, filed an FIR about this, the fraud that happened with me. And eventually I got my money back because of the insurance and everything that I had. But that is where Comolo was born. And it's an interesting story because Comolo also is a Portuguese word, right? It's not Indian.
Yeah,
It's a
so where did
Portuguese.
like tell me about the word because this is a fascinating story and I'm having a lot of different conversations with like I've done 180 interviews now since February with my podcast. And everyone I'm meeting from an entrepreneurial perspective, it's a lived experience which has created their business. Like they've had something happen to them genuinely, or
Mhm.
they've seen a problem. They're like, no one's solving this. And so your
Correct.
lived experience is what has created your business, which is the same with my business. It's a lived experience. And so you
Mhm.
as the customer are going, how do I fix this? Because if I've had this happen to me, I love that
Mhm.
insight. I love that. But then I'm also like the names that are coming out of these lived experiences and then how your business name comes together. It's so fascinating. So how did you come
Yeah.
up? How did your brand, how did your business name come about?
So okay, so the finding the name was pretty simple, but putting it at the right place was difficult, right? So I was part of a startup before I started my own journey, and at that startup I was handling the LATAM market, which is the Latin American market, right? So I was learning Spanish, I was learning Portuguese.
I love
I
it.
was trying to interact. Yeah, I was trying to interact with the people in LATAM, and amazing people these guys are, right? Eventually, I figured out this name, Com Olo, right? Somewhere I was reading something and I was translating it, and then it was written Komolo. And then, I thought, "Oh, this is an interesting name because it means with eyes." That's where the logo is. If you look at the logo closely, it's like an eye, right? So it's a Portuguese word meaning with eyes. So what I did was I went to the domain authority, and I put the komolo.com, whether it's available or not. And it was available. So I booked this name back in 2017, right? And I booked it on my name that okay, I own this domain, I will eventually do something about this in future, but today I might not have an idea. So I booked those, I gave up those $15, got that domain parked for myself, and eventually in 2019 then this whole story
Oh,
happened.
so they weren't even connected. It was just that you loved this name and something to do with an eye.
Correct.
You had no idea what it was for.
Correct.
What a story. And then this happens to you in 2019 and you put the two together. That's
Correct, that's what
incredible.
has
I love
happened. Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it happened all organically. I mean, once I figured out the problem that, okay, this fraud problem and this issue of risk is huge on the digital economies. And as countries, we might not realize it today, but a single cyber attack can put down entire country in
Yeah,
one night,
crazy.
right? It's that big a problem, right? It has not happened it yet, but maybe 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when cyber warfare becomes very common, I think the first thing that countries would do against each other is bring down their entire internet, right? Make their citizens starve from services, like they cannot make payments, they cannot order, they cannot make bookings, all of that stuff. So uh, it has not developed to that core, but yeah, there are apts, there are other things that are there in the open world or dark web, you say, which does all of this bad stuff as well. So we need to build capability, right? And my life has been hugely inspired by a couple of what do you say, stories, right? One story that has inspired me really deeply is the Ramayana, which is it's the Diwali season right now. So that is one story which every Indian gets to read and love since the childhood. Then later on, this
What's the
became,
story? Sorry, what's the story about? Can you
I
give
mean,
us
you should I mean, totally after this call I'm going to send you some links about the story. It's about Lord Ram, on how he actually won his 14 years of exile through truth, right? So it's a complete story, amazing. It's in Hindu rituals, it's in everything what India does, right?
Yes.
Basically, right? It's and then eventually I got very much inspired by Harry Potter, uh,
Ah,
right? I am that age, because I am that age where every year I should wait 1 year, because next year, July, the next version of Harry Potter is going to come. So if somebody is getting born today, he or she can eventually see the entire Harry Potter series in 7 days, get all the CDs and run plays, put them up and just watch. But in our case, I was the generation which actually waited
oh,
one
I
more
love
year,
it. Hilarious.
right? So, right, and the third one, I mean, eventually, I love American web series, which is Suits. And I mean, I deeply love cinema as well, so it deeply impacts my life in a way. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So tell me, Abhinav, a few things, right? Like you've talked about cybersecurity, you've talked about your lived experience, you've talked about what you love. How important is it for you to, I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're in startup, when you're building, obviously you're, raising capital as well at this point in time. Like
Mhm.
in terms of what is it like for you? How do you keep yourself fresh with your ideas and your perspectives? Because you seem like the sort of person that is inspired by books, inspired by cinematography. I want to talk about the art behind you. Like what,
Mhm.
how do you keep yourself just, energetically charged? Like, is that what you do? Like you make sure that you carve time out? Because I've spoken to a few people from your country, and they're like, we work a lot, we work really long hours, and it's just the way we do it. But
Mhm,
it isn't sustainable to a degree in terms of you need to sleep, you need to rest, you need to be able
mhm,
to come, especially when you're building and scaling a business like you are with the goals you've set.
mhm.
How do you do it?
Okay, keeping yourself calm. So I've actually experienced burnouts couple of times in the last 5 6 years. Personally, burnouts are huge, right? I sometimes also used to work all 7 days a week. In the starting years, when uh, when there is no, I mean, you don't see the end of the tunnel. The
No.
first 3 4 years of business are just like that. You don't see the end of the tunnel, and suddenly one meeting or one thing can change the trajectory of the company, and you have to have the perseverance to go till that point, right, where it changes the trajectory. Keeping myself cool, I mean, I love building teams, so I take the care of my entire HR function. So whosoever gets inside the company has to bypass my gate. He has to bypass my vibe. If a person is able to give me the vibe where I can innovate with him, I can excel with him. If he's able to see all the ideas that have come in, maybe they were because of, in a way, I worked on them and with my team, and we worked together to go get those. But the future ideas are eventually going to come by the people who join us now, and we have to make sure the right people join us. In India, there is a very common saying, and not a saying, I mean, even my mother also says this a lot. See, uh, whatever you do in life, right, the intention has to be amazing. If
Yes.
your intention is true, eventually you would find people who will help you. In Hindi, you call it niyat.
Ah.
अगर आपकी नीयत साफ है तो आपका रास्ता खुल जाएगा. It means if your intentions are pure, your roads will open up automatically to your goals. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So it's kind of for me, it's like how, that vibe and attracting your tribe, I think is super important. And there's something about that chemistry, the ability, the magic that is created with a team. What do you see is the key things for a high performing creative team? What do you feel like is required?
Amazing. That's a very, because I've seen talent for last 6 years, building them, nurturing them, right? So, discipline early in your career, discipline. If you have discipline early in your career, you would do amazing stuff. Uh, if you're always coming up with the problem, it's a problem. So, high performing team don't have problems; they have solutions.
Mhm.
Eventually, it has to be driven by the team member and not the leader. So somebody who can lead, I mean, you eventually figure out in 6 to 9 months, you figure out somebody is a, maybe you put them into an individual contributor basket, or they are leaders. They can come in, influence people, get more people into their team. So you would have to, high performing teams are disciplined. They have an aura, right? And they work in cohesion. They don't work separately. If you ask one question to a high performance team separately in separate rooms, they will have a same answer. And
I love that. It's
it's a
very cool.
definition of
They're in
high.
sync, aren't they? They're in flow. They're in collective flow, or they're in team flow, where they're flowing. Like they're all bringing their own, skill set, but it's how they all interact together, and it almost it's like a jazz band, right? And it's effortless. And like you say, if you have them in separate rooms, they're all talking the same language, and singing from the same hymn or the same tune, the same music tune, for example. Sounds like you've got it all going on. What is going on with your background with all the beautiful pictures? We're jumping around here, but like tell me a little bit about
You're
the
based out of WeWork. I think Australia has a lot of WeWorks as well.
okay, there
Yeah.
you go. Have you chosen the WeWork room with all the different bright colors? Like is it because energy is a big part of business. It's a big part of the
It's
team,
big.
right?
I'll tell you one fact that I've learned in business. So we have been at WeWork since the inception, right? I remember booking my first seat at WeWork, single seat, at $100 a month, right? And that has been a journey. But once we shifted out, me and my team, entire team outside, oh, it breaks culture. So how your workspace looks, what kind of people come in the workspace, definitely has a big impact on your morale of your employees, right? So it has to be creative, it has to be well done. They need to have all the access to all the facilities, like say printing, phone, or say washroom. Everything has to be perfect. So I think we work as a model, or say co-working space as a model, is amazing. right? And we have been here since day one. We never leave the space. It's so great. Look at my background. I mean, I can look at this background for 5-10 minutes and have a new idea coming in. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I wanted to hear. That you just said you can look at this for 5 minutes and you have a new idea. I've got two more questions for you, and then I'm going to let you get back to your afternoon because this has been an epic flowing conversation. Talk to me just quickly about the up and coming next generation of inventors, like people like yourself, like, when you were, back then. Like,
Mhm.
what's your view on bringing experience? Like, we're probably around the same age. I'm 48. I don't know, maybe you could be younger than me, so I shouldn't presume, do you know what I mean? But then there's working with like the young 21, 22 year olds. What's on your view on having the different generations in the team so that you've got the experience, but then you've got all these, experience ideas, but then you've got a younger, who have been brought up in this digital world, if you like.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, do you
I mean,
focus on that when you're building out your teams?
you have to look for skills. We look at two things, two basic things. The first thing is the skill match. If you're looking at a particular skill set, that particular person should have the skills.
Yeah.
And once we've figured out, okay, the skills, that particular person has skills, whether he's 21, 25, 35, whatever. Second, would he culturally fit? Right? We have a culture, and not everybody would culturally fit. So we find the cultural fitment as well. Once we are happy with both of them, then we eventually make a decision to get hired. Looking at how do we create inspiration for about 20, 21 year olds for in an organization which is as young as 6 year old organization, right? So eventually hire some leaders or get the leaders on board that are influential, that have used influence, they're
Yeah.
high performing leaders must. If you are a high performing leader inside your organization, then eventually the people who join in from like the fresher level or 1 or 2 years of experience, eventually they would figure out something in you that they want to become. And That's the goal. I mean, but you have to be a trendsetter. You have to be, what do you call it, a high performer.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you're not a high performer, then eventually people will uh, maybe come over you, and that's how the world runs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And then what would be one piece of advice, maybe we'll put the Harry Potter hat on here. I haven't done this before. If you were Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
what would be one piece of advice you would give a startup
Mm-hmm.
who was in the grind? They were in like the second year of the business, and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is just like they can't see the light. They're in that like that death valley, they're just what would be if you were Harry Potter, what piece of advice would you give them?
I mean, this kind of advice will come from the Dumbledore, not basically
Okay,
from
well there
Harry
you go.
Potter.
It doesn't have to be Harry Potter, but
So there is
what
this.
character from Harry Potter and what would be Dumbledore's advice?
So I mean, there is a very famous line, no, when the Voldemort returns, and then Dumbledore says that eventually you would see the light. It's just the matter of say that you have to care to switch on the light. See, the light is always there. So when you are in their death valley in your second, third year, you would not maybe see the light soon, but eventually by perseverance. See, startups are just not about building products or building, it is also about money management. It is, people don't understand this sometimes. If you have very fancy degrees, you get those money easy, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 1 million, 2 million. You might get cash easy, but then eventually what the founder will realize 10 years, 20 years later, that point of time, if I didn't have that much of capital, I would have learned how to use the capital effectively, right? So startups is like a lot of game money management, then it's like perseverance. Again, coming back to what Dumbledore said, eventually the light is always there. It is just the matter of fact that you try to switch it on, right? Yeah.
Oh, I love that. This has been such an amazing chat, Abhinav, and I'm so glad we caught up. Obviously, we were meant to catch up. I think it was last week we were meant to catch up, and
Yeah.
something happened, and here we are. And I've absolutely loved your energy. You're like, yeah, I thought I had like high energy vibes, but your energy is up there. So I love it. How do we find out more about you, and how do we find out more about Como?
I mean, just write Comolo on Google, and that's where we are. Or maybe if you use any AI tool, we're already everywhere. And if we are not anywhere, just ping us that you're not there. We'll eventually go there as well.
I love it. And then
It's a tricky name. It's a tricky name, but whatever you reconcile in your head, like Comolo, just write it down. You'll find us.
Pomolo, no, it's I've got it down pat, and then we can find you on LinkedIn, right, by your name.
Correct.
Abhinav Bangia. Yeah, yes, excellent. Well, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You know, at Be Formless, we are all about that high performing, but we need to ensure that we have that presence, we have that purpose, the people
Mhm.
and the performance, and that's when
Correct.
we can really truly reshape the future of, life leadership and business. So thank you so much, Abhinav. I've certainly enjoyed our conversation. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I did view a couple of podcasts before that you have done, and I found this very interesting. I mean, I generally don't do uh, things where it's scripted. I like being very candid on my journey, because eventually people who become candidate and people who become with this flow eventually build this flow are the people who actually did something, right? So that flow is a matter of fact that you have done something which is totally yours,
Yeah.
right? And that's where this right this tongue comes in, this flow comes in, because you have seen so much, you've done so much, that whatever the question is, you might have some reference from your life to give it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's such a good analogy as well. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Abhinav. Have a great afternoon. And yes, hope, maybe we'll connect again in a year's time and see where the business is at, where you're at.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would love to. I mean, maybe 1 year down the line, you might want to cut a small check to us as well. Right.
That is cool. I love it. Throwing it in there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank you
afternoon.
so much. Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a great evening. Thanks.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you. Bye.